Good morning. This talk is about psychology and the situation of having Muslims going to psychotherapy or psychologists. Some might not really know what to do and can get puzzled by some of the differences that occurs when some Muslims go to find a psychotherapeutical approach to their problems or maybe get into psychiatry. And I got into a talk with one of these psychiatrists once, and during that talk, I realized that he needed some more information, and I told him I would upload a video about some of the main lines that I could participate with from my knowledge about the religion of Islam and Muslim cultures, and also related to the psychotherapeutical um, work that they usually do, and the psychiatric part of it, trying to heal people. His question was actually very specific in the beginning. He said, I've got um, a lot of people with Muslim background who keeps referring to the jinn, to the spirits, evil spirits, touching them or doing something to their psyche, and thereby diverting them from being normal human beings. And he wanted my comment on that. We didn't have much time, so I told him I would maybe make a small video about it. And from there comes this very funny picture of this cat rubbing the lamp, and the jinn in the lamp, the spirit that's residing in that lamp, comes out whenever it is rubbed, and then he get annoyed by this cat who keeps rubbing and rubbing against the lamp, and he says, "Stop rubbing against that lamp. You again, stop rubbing against that lamp." So it brings a lot of associations in my mind, just that picture alone. Let me start with that and then go on to talk about some of the issues related to the Muslim psychology and psychiatry. Well, one of the first associations I get in that picture is that it's funny. It's something you can joke at. You can see it in front of you. We all, or many of us, know cats, how they like to come and rub their, their their back and their head up against your sleeve and your leg, trying to get in touch with you. And so this cat is getting in touch with that lamp, and something comes out of it. So there are things that are hidden, but they are in the real world anyway. This is maybe one kind of interpretation. The psyche is also something that's hidden, but it's there. We are trying to grasp it through the um, discipline of psychology, where people who are experts trying to analyze and make studies, interviews, and observations to understand what is really hidden in there. Is it just a hollow? Is it a reflection? Is it something that is just like some kind of shadow of who we are? Or is it the essence of who we are? This is one of the big questions in psychology, and we're all like dancing around that issue, like exactly that spirit in the lamp. We rub the lamp to see what's gonna get out of it. And that's what we do in our lives as well as humans. We go rubbing ourselves up against life, issues we like or hate or challenge ourselves with or get annoyed by and avoid, all to see how things are going to happen. What's the experience? What are we going to get out of it, of joy or of sadness, hurt or happiness? And that's exactly the picture I see when I laugh at this small picture about the lamb and the man. You know, the story is an old one. It comes from the Aladdin, who finds that lamp, and he rubs it. He's cleaning it, and the jinn comes out of it. Jinn is an Arabic word for a hidden creature that's made of some etherical material that is not always physical, but it can be hidden. It can be like some kind of gas, can be hidden in the fire as well. So it's the material of something that is gas, fire, not solid all the time. and has some superpowers, the ability to bring you something or get something. That's also relating to the story of Solomon, who had uh, this big kingdom, according to the Israelite talks and reflections on religion, the Old Testament. He got this kingdom from God. It's actually also related in the Quran. The story is also told in the Quran that God gave him a great wealth and a great kingdom. One of these issues that was under him, the ability to command the jinns, command these spirits who are floating around and alive among humans or beside them or somewhere in the universe. And he could command them. He could put them in shackles. He could let them work hard for him. He could let them move heavy stones and do stuff that maybe ordinary humans wouldn't be able to do so easily. And so there's this relation between that which is hidden and that which is seen, that happens all the time for us in life. And it happens when we rub ourselves against something or we try to get in touch with it. It happens in the stories of love and care and nourishing and friendship, exploration, hikings, sitting alone, walking, talking with people, doing a lot of anything actually that can activate that hidden side of us, hidden feelings, hidden emotions, and also more than that. And so that story of the jinn is actually the story of the Arabic story. It's the Arabic world of the story of the creatures who were under Solomon's command, but also had been given life by God, the creator of everything, that they should float and be around and have their own some kind of living habitats. And so it's not normal that they are in contact with the humans, but it happens. And when it happens, there are two kind of these jinns, according to the Quranic view. And I apologize to people who do not believe in the Quran or only want the scientific facts and or maybe does not want to listen to things outside their own realm of understanding. It's their loss actually, because listening to views of other religions and people and minds, especially science, and what is beyond it or in touch with it or in the realm just beside it is actually something that can open perspectives and broaden our minds. That's why it's so important that scientists and ordinary people alike always keep an open eye and mind to old myth stories, lies that hides the truth, and stories of the religious books. But when I'm talking about the Quran, it's for this psychiatrist who wanted to understand the relation to the jinn. And so the Quranic view on this is that these creatures are real, created by God, by a material of fire, some kind of material that is can be hidden for the solid from the solid world or the eye, or can vanish and change and shift in its shape. It has a physical appearance, but its ground material is fire, like the human's ground material is the dirt and the water put together to make that mold, which is the human body essentially, not the human spirit and not the jinn spirit. But these jinns, these spirits are two kinds, the good ones and the bad ones. The good ones who have understood the universe and God's wish in it and has left the humans alone and does not disturb them with bad issues. On contrary, some of them would be helping the humans from time to time because they have succumbed to the will of God that has put the humans in a position on earth to rule it and to be in it, and they don't disturb them with anything bad. The other kind is those who rebelled with the first jinn father, the Satan, the person who had denied to accept Adam's and Eve's position, and is doing all the time anything to seduce them away. His followers, his family, and the people, his people, the jinns, are always after the humans to try to get them away from the right path and to disturb their lives in any way they can. And part of that disturbance is some kind of interaction we do not really have scientific proof for in any way. And thereby, I understand when people say, well, there's no proof, we cannot use it. But we can use it as a frame of understanding of the humans who are seeking help. This is what I told the psychiatrist, and this is what is his understanding as well. Even though he doesn't believe that this is happening, the person who is receiving the treatment believes this is happening to him or her, and they believe it as a fact. And that's why it's good to know this cultural background and this reference. And so back to the Quranic view on this, and the Muslim view is that these evil spirits of the jinns, they will try to get in touch with people in bad ways. Um, they will try to overtake their ability to decide. They will try to, what can you say, force themselves upon them and disturb them physically. So they become psychologically disturbed inside them. And there are some indications from the Muslim religion that this could happen in a physical way. That means they go physically in their own form to sit in the human form, to like interact with it, overtake it, and take refuge, or what can you say, take over um, the faculties of the human mind and the human self and directions. That doesn't mean the human disappears, but gets disturbed. And that would be visible on the face and attitude and acts of that human, that this person is beyond himself, is beside his own natural way of being human. And that's why when people see people like that, they say this guy is possessed. This person is not himself, or she's not herself. There is something wrong, and then they act strangely too, according to the Quranic view and the Muslim tradition as well, because this happened also in the social life at the time of Muhammad and later his followers. And so the scholars had looked into this, and some of them wrote about it, some books and some narratives to make it more understandable. And it happened to people that they start acting weird, or they feel that they are not themselves anymore, and thereby um, they come with the explanation that there is a touch by an evil spirit. Um, People with Christian background understand this because they have the idea of exorcism, and some of the Jews understand it as well because they also have some of that idea in their traditions. But most other people in modern time, they do not really relate to this and can't understand it. If you are a scientific mind, of course, you would understand it, but you won't take it granted because there is no proof. But most of other people, they neither think of it scientifically nor religiously. They just see it as something that's taken out of a fantasy, and they can't relate to it really, or see how it's happening. And so modern people would say, well, it's the psyche, he's disturbed, we don't know where it is, we can't find the source, there's something wrong with this person. And so when Muslims, with a little knowledge of their own culture and background, they go to a psychiatrist with the person who is disturbed, they would refer to the jinn. Not always, but this is in one occasion. They would refer to the jinn, saying, this human has come in touch with something evil, or I have come in touch with something evil, and it has possessed me, taking me over. So I'm not myself really. I have sinned. I have done something against the universal laws of God and the law of the Quran, and the way that shows us how to live, and thereby I expose myself to become possessed by these or touched by these evil spirits, because the Quran said, as long as you live on the direct way and you make your prayers and do the chants and say some of the words that will protect you, reading some of the minor Quranic verses, thereby you won't be disturbed. You can't. You will be protected by these prayers and by these Quranic verse and by some of what else you are using as a mean to protect yourself as a human from these spirits. But persons who have sinned or done something wrong, they can get confused, or they could quickly relate it to the jinns, even though there's also that possibility that it's themselves that gets disturbed. Their conscience and their inner faculties get out of their way because they've been used to live according to a tradition, or they want to live according to a tradition. They know it. And then they see that they are not doing right, and they punish themselves, or the psyche is actually getting hurt by the way they're living if they're doing something wrong, like stealing, killing people, doing stuff that's not right in what should be right, morally, or ethically, or according to the law of nature, or the law of the Quran, and the human interaction. Then they will find their psyche fighting against them. And this is the second thing that also is from the Quran, and the Muslim view, is that the psyche can become ill, and it can get in a civil war with itself and its higher mind. It's like the old Muslim scholars talked about the akal. The akal is that kind of faculty which is being translated as the mind in later European literature. It's the thing that keeps everything together, the reins of your life, the akal. That's what you take control of yourself, your lusts, your ego, your arrogance, whatever is in you that can disturb you. You take control of that, and you keep on the right track. You keep going according to the plan that has been given to you. And when that faculty loses its control for one reason or another, maybe because of the push of the sexual drive, or the drive and need for having and owning things, or maybe to take control and have power, or something else, the faculties get inside the mind, and inside the psyche gets disturbed, and they start fighting each other, because your ego wants something and the other stuff needs something else. Now, that sounds like the psychoanalyst view that Freud and others made possible for the modern mind to understand. But it's actually something that's been in the Quran for 1500 years, that um, the description of the psyche, where God says, well, you have your psyche, and if you put it into a glorifying use, if you do right with it, you will gain. You will be a gainer. And if you use it wrong, and you humiliate it, and do wrong things with it, you will be losing in yourself. And in other verses, there is this talk in the Quran about the psyche that has three levels: the very healthy psyche, and the very sick psyche, and the psyche that is in conflict with itself, always blaming, the blamish psyche in the human. And so we see these kind of intersections and divisions of the type of psyche that's working inside the human, together or each by itself, depending on how good your reins are to keep eye on God and the road and the human laws, and the universal laws as well. So when Muslims go to psychiatrists and psychotherapy, they have this problem that, okay, I'm in conflict with myself because I have actually done something wrong, and maybe they interpret it as a touch from the jinn. This also happens a lot to many people. And so when they meet this Western psycho expert, psychological expert, they will say, well, I'm touched by some evil spirit, and in reality, it's just a disturbance inside themselves that has made their life miserable and troublesome, because they are out of the way and shape they should have been. In that sense, there is another side of it, also in the Muslim view, that psychologists can relate to these Muslims and say, listen, it doesn't need to be the jinn, doesn't need to be something you're touched by. It could easily just be the disturbance inside your psyche because of your lifestyle or the things you're doing, and you're blamed for from the inside. Whether you're blamed for it because your nature is against it, or because you've been learned as a kid that this is forbidden or not good or will lead you to hell. whatever it is, you have this conflict inside you and you have to solve it and get over it. Then there is the physical part of it, that this problem in the psyche, or the touch by the jinn, which also is acknowledged by the Quran, as I said before. There is the disturbance that happens physically in the mind, uh, which needs some medicine. And Muslims have this view on medicine that it's all right as long as it's not gonna do more damage, or is among the things that's forbidden. A medicine is something that should heal and be good for the body, because Islam has this saying from the Muhammad, the prophet of the religion, saying that everything has, there is no illness on earth that doesn't have a cure besides death. And that was a motivating saying that led many scholars to study and try to find medicines in nature and in the human body early on in the centuries of the Middle Ages. And they took up the Greek and the Roman knowledge on that issue, and they even brought knowledge from India and the Far East, the Chinese, whom they met on their conquests and travels, to find cure for any disease that could happen. So there is a healthy view in the Islamic culture about using medicine, and that's why it should be easy for many Muslims to accept from this doctor or psychiatrist that he could give them something to calm the mind or to relieve the stress or the pain or the reaction, whatever it is. But that doesn't solve the root of the problem, which is also a question that's been more and more acknowledged by modern psychology and psychiatry, as I understand from this expert I've talked to, but also from others I've listened to before. And they know that they need a shift of paradigm, as they say in the modern scientific language. So the Quran and the Muslim culture has this view that, well, you could be touched by the jinn. They will be able to touch you if you go out of the way of God, the way of living with your prayers, and the good spirit will protect you and give you a shelter and help you to get on with your life without these spirits hurting you, especially not hurting you badly by possessing you. But it is possible to happen. So Muslims acknowledge that this is possible. This could happen really physically, and you need to drive them out. There are several ways to do that, by scaring them and by using God's words and using holy water. There is no holy water, but it's a kind of water that has been under the readings of Quranic verses and prayers of different kinds. And using those would help to drive these spirits out, because they don't like anything that comes from the light of God. And we know that Christian faith has the same element from Christ, who also drove some of these evil spirits out of human bodies. Many people today take it as metaphorics, also among Muslims. But nonetheless, many people who go to psychiatry and psychology, they would acknowledge it and say, well, maybe I'm possessed, help me, doctor. Beside that, a doctor can use this issue of the troubled psyche to also help them. And the Quran is highlighting that in different ways and in its texts, different places, saying that people who misuse their psyche or do something bad to it, or have bad intentions, or are not humble towards God and life, they will suffer. They will get something back in return, and they will feel it. It's actually a sickness in itself to be arrogant and to feel that you can do anything, or that you are very scared of everything. These are sicknesses that the Quran also mentioned, that people can be scared of their own shadows and out of nothing. And people who are walking in the darknesses because of their dark minds and souls, led by their evil deeds and evil intentions. So we have different aspects in the Quran, all showing us, if you read the texts, that the psyche can get troubled or change, or something can affect it. It's a dynamic psyche that can change and get affected by whatever you're doing, and whatever is surrounding you. Maybe some would call it a kind of universal law of retribution or interaction with the universe. So, whenever somebody hurts another human or is unjust to himself or others, this will be felt sooner or later in the way the psyche reacts against a person. The heart will be clouded and the mind will go out of its usual balance, and so you're left there in darknesses and in dark waves because of your lack of good deeds, and you're not holding the torch of light into your heart and mind to keep showing you the way in this darkness. This is the other possibility, and this is by far the largest one, because the Quran doesn't really mention a lot about the possession of the jinn. It's mentioned one time in a prayer, and in the case of Solomon, but it's more the psyche that gets troubled, that is mentioned over and over. And so there we have an intersection, a good point of reference for the modern scientific approach, that Muslims also acknowledge that the psyche get troubled and needs the healing, without necessarily being spirit possessing it. And as I said, the third thing that you can talk to Muslims about is the way they understand these these things that's happening to them, out of a medical view, that it's okay to use medicine and experts in medicine to find relief and to let the body get some kind of relief from the pain and the troubles that it has been faced with during its life, seeing horrors, experiencing horrors, or getting through things that's not easy to get rid of again. And that makes the mind and psyche distorted in different ways, or some kind under a kind of pressure, by nightmares, by sudden reactions, and so on. So it's okay for Muslims to use medicine. It's also all right to talk about it, and it's also fine to make this reference to psychological disturbance in the psyche, because the Quran is also showing it, and the traditions of the Muslims in different ways are showing it. A fourth point I would like to stop by here is the different cultures that Muslims come from. We know, like with every other culture on earth, that you can find people that are high educated, low in education, some people who have a lot of understanding and knowledge and insights, and many others who doesn't. And within one culture, you can find subcultures, people from the land, people from the town, people from the rich part of the town, the poor part of the town, people with rich families or bad families, and so on. We have habitats, we have cultural milieus that affects us a lot. This is very acknowledged common knowledge today among many people. And so the same is the fact for Muslims. They come from different cultures and places. You cannot just say, oh, a Muslim, that means they're all just alike. This is a kind of stupidity that I know people use because they don't want to relate to people from other cultures. Like when people say, oh, a Jew, and then they get a sudden picture in their head of a Jew, but Jews are also different in there are many ways, and different people, different kinds. You can find the evil-hearted Jew, you can find the kind-hearted, sacrificing Jew, you can find the humanity in every person in different levels. depending on what these people have experienced or been attached to or learned in their life. This is not inherited just by religion. So when you say a Muslim, that doesn't mean they're all coming like copies alike into your praxis or your life. And so we have, and psychology and psychiatry has to acknowledge that these people can be secular, atheist, educated, analphabets, coming from war zones, or maybe warriors, and some others who are educated and maybe have had a high education and whatever. It's the same differences that you would find in any culture and and any other group you are treating. And so this is an important notion that these people should also be acknowledged for their background and the ballast they're coming with, because some have a great ballast of understanding and knowledge and insights, and others don't. A fifth and last point I should maybe stop by here is the fact that many people from Muslim culture and background have trouble saying that I am in psychological disturbance. It's a cultural issue in many places outside the West today, that if you refer to yourself as a person who has psychological troubles, that could arise some kind of negative reactions or some kind of judgmental view from people around you. It's attached to the honor of the person, the wellness of and well-being of the person, that you should not be psychologically disturbed if you are an okay human being. While you today more and more find it in other societies acceptable to say, well, I have ADHD, I have ADD, I have a syndrome of this or a symptom of that, I have PTSD, I have, all these numbers and figures that F1, F2, F3 up to F9, I guess. This it's the start of psychotherapy and psychiatry. They try to put people into some kind of frames. So maybe you can find people today saying, "Well, I'm disturbed in a certain way. I'm autistic, and I have this and this problem." While in many Muslim countries and cultures, it's still difficult to say that, well, I am a human being, but I'm seeing a doctor for some certain illness. They will immediately, and many people will use it against you as if you are ill-minded and troubled person who is not really deserving of a natural behavior or treatment. And so many Muslims, for this fifth point, will try to hide that they are using a psychiatrist or getting medicine for some troublesome problems they have. I'm saying again, not all. Depends on the education and background of the people and the culture they come from. Some cultures will be more open to it, talking more openly about it. I can't tell you where because it shifts and changes, depends on the culture in the country. But you can find it in different places where they talk more open about, well, okay, I have a diagnosis, and so what? Life goes on. This is like saying, I've lost an arm, or I can't move my leg, or I have trouble with my eyesight. All the physical symptoms are acceptable to people, but when you say there is something wrong with the inside, uh, they can raise an eyebrow, or they could think of you as a crazy person or somebody who has lost his what can you say, his balance totally and is not gonna recover it or regain it. They don't really understand the mechanisms of the inner psyche, even though there are Muslims who have written books on psychology and have looked into the scriptures and texts and the tradition of Islam, and found a lot of references to the psyche and its illness and problems. There is no clear references to how to treat it or how to deal with it in detail. This is something science has been like working its way into, trying to find out more and more about. But there is a common reference there, and there are some kind of appointments. What can you say? Some kind of references to treatments that Muslims can use when they have a disturbed psyche, first of all, to turn towards God in honesty and to get rid of whatever is making that person not being accepted as a part of the universal law that God has put on earth. It's like when we disturb nature too much and we misuse it, abuse it, something happens. We get these floods, we get these weather changes, we get this abuse of the earth or overfishing or whatever we do. Nature will try to rebalance and get back on track. And the same with the psyche. Whenever we abuse it, it wants us to get back on track, and God behind the universe wants us to get back on track. And so the Muslims are advised to turn towards God and to try to straighten up their way of life to find that easiness later. But not all does that, even though they are trying. And not all find that easiness, even though they turn towards God. They can pray every day and still have a mental illness or have a psychological reaction of stress or depression or anxiety disorder or some kind of psychological problem. Well, that's just to say that it is something that's easy to talk with Muslims about, to say there are treatment for this. Some of it is biological, and another part is psychological, where you have to change something in yourself. The Quran speaks about the introspection, the insight that humans have over themselves, even though they give excuses. And this is very clear in the Quranic words of the God speaking, saying, well, the human has insights over themselves, even though they come with excuses for their way of life or their illness or what they are. So there is a kind of a way in to the treatment to the Muslims. But many can be ashamed of talking about this, and that's why they maybe might hide a lot of what they are suffering from. Also from the psychiatrist, they have to build a trust and they have to know that this guy or woman is not going to betray them, and they don't want to be seen going to that place or person, because this is the place for the crazies, the people who are out of their mind and who are not gonna be let to be among other people in society. Nobody will marry them, nobody will be with them, and so on. And so this part is difficult to do something about. It's a question about knowledge, understanding on what's going on, and acceptance of it. Well, the same can be said about the West and other places. It's not always been acceptable to talk about psychiatrists and psychologists as it is today. So the taboo issue is also part of it. This was just a small talk about some highlights on the issue of having Muslims in treatment or approaching them for the treatment in the psychology and psychiatrical yeah, assistance that's given to people. I hope this can be useful for somebody out there sooner or later.